We're working on number 2 at the top of page 15 in our 4.8 notes. So I highlighted this one. Whoops, blurry alert. It's not liking that at all. Wow, that was wild. I've never had it stay that out of focus for that long. But anyway, so I highlighted 3 problems. Remember how I told you there's 5 problems from this section? These 3 are on it, and then we'll have some from the back page. So we have one that is not set equal to 0. So you have to do the opposite to bring things over. And I remember a lot of students forgot to change the sign. They just brought it over as 8x squared minus 6x minus 1. If they're negative on the right, they need to be positive when you bring them over to the left. And then we looked for a GCF. There wasn't one. So we started the AC method since it's a trinomial leading coefficient, not 1. So we got 8. So we're looking at factors of 8 that add to 6. And we already had this one earlier in an earlier section. That's 2 and 4. So we're going to take this out and replace it with those 2. And order doesn't matter. Just make sure it has the same variable. So 8x squared plus 2x plus 4x plus 1 equals 0, and keep that 0 there because that's your reminder. Oh, I have to set it equal to 0 at the end and find the solutions. And remember, order doesn't matter. You could add 4x plus 2x or 2x plus 4x. Then we need to do grouping. The minute we get it in 4 terms, grouping should be your next thought. So with grouping, we find the GCF for the first 2, which is 2 and an x. And we get 4x. Anything divided by itself is 1. Plus, GCF here is 1. So when we divide each of those by 1, we get the same thing back. So our parentheses match. That tells us we're on the right track. So we take out that common binomial as our next GCF, 4x plus 1. And then 2x plus 1 is what's left. And it's set equal to 0. So if A times B equals 0, then either this one's 0 or this one's 0 or they're both 0. So either the first one is 0 or the second one is 0. So we solve to find our 2 solutions, and we know there's 2 because our highest power is 2. So subtract 1, subtract 1, subtract 1, subtract 1. It looks like we're getting negative 1/4 and negative 1/2 for our 2 solutions. So I'm going to go up here just so I don't steal that one's room. So our 2 solutions are going to be negative 1/2 and negative 1/4. And there we have it. 2 solutions, second degree. So that's a good one to study for the test. Next we have, this one is a little bit hard for a test because not only is it AC method, it's GCF on top of it. So you might be thinking, how does she know it's a GCF? Well, the cube's a giveaway. We don't know how to do cubes unless they're 2 terms. So the minute I see cubed, I look and go, oh, look, there's an x common to all of those terms. So then I pull an x out and I get 6x squared minus 11x minus 7 equals 0. So I took one x out of every term. Now I have my normal trinomial that's ready for the AC method. And remember how I said put this on the outside? Because it's not part of the AC or the grouping, and you don't want to make it part of the answer. This one you should keep in mind is going to have 3 solutions because the highest power is 3. So keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and do AC. 6 times 7 is 42. So we're looking for factors of 42 that subtract, read the problem backwards, to 11. So factors of 42 that subtract to 11. So 1 and 42, that doesn't subtract to 11. 2 and 21, nope. 3 and 14, yep, that subtracts to 11. So this says the signs will be different. And this says make the largest one negative. So 14's the larger one, make it negative, 3's positive. And remember how I said when you're plugging them in, if you can put the negative one first, that's better. Then you don't have to worry about the negative GCF. So I'm going to write negative 14x and positive 3x minus 7 equals 0. So remember, this is not part of it. Keep it out there. It's just going to be part of the answer, but it's not part of the grouping. So here we have what? A 2 and an x common. So we have bracket. 2x is our GCF, and this is what students want to do. That's why I say keep it outside of a bracket. So think of it as police tape. You can't cross that because students want to make this 2x squared. Don't do it. You're going backwards. We're trying to break it down, not multiply it. That's what factor means. Break it down. So 2x is our GCF. We have 3x minus 7 left. We bring down the plus sign. Here our GCF is 1, so we put it out in front and we get 3x minus 7. And then set that equal to 0. So finally, we have our 0 out in front, so cross it out. Then we have our common binomial 3x minus 7, so write it next and cross it out. And then we have 2x plus 1. And remember, we need to get 3 solutions. I have a 4th degree one on the test, and I cannot tell you how many times I write on it, where are the 4 solutions? You have 2. So whatever the highest power is, you're guaranteed that many solutions. So if A times B times C equals 0, either A is 0, so you set the first factor equal to 0, or set the second factor equal to 0, or set the third factor equal to 0. So those are the 3 statements that are going to give us our 3 solutions. Well, that one's done, so we don't have to worry about it. So add 7, 3x equals 7, x is 7/3. And then minus 1, that looks like it's going to be negative 1/2 again. So our 3 solutions are going to be negative 1/2, 0, 7/3. And remember, there's no order. I just had a teacher in college that made us do smallest to largest because that was their preference to make the grading of the tests easier. So I'm just in the habit, but order doesn't matter unless Alex tells you to do a specific order. Okay, so we had 3 factors, the x, the 3x minus 7, 2x plus 1, solve all 3, and that's where our 3 solutions come from. Okay, the next 2 are on your test. Why don't you shut off the video and do 4? Some students struggle with B, so why don't you do 4A, then turn the video back on and check it. And then we'll do 4B together. So 4A is not set equal to 0. So that's my first step. X squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. So when I bring that over, it changes signs. And we have not done these since section 4.5, but look at leading coefficient 1. I don't have to do AC method. When the leading coefficient's 1, we learned on the very front page of the 4.6 notes that you can go straight to the answer. So you don't have to do all these steps. You can go straight to the answer when the number in front is 1, which it is. So then we say, and remember how I said it's really handy if you put that 1 there. We're looking for factors of 6 that subtract to 1. So that would be 3 and 2. Signs are different. And make the larger number negative. Factors of 6, and I put the 1 in front so you don't say factors of 6 that subtract to x. That doesn't even make sense. Numbers can't subtract to x. Factors of 6 that subtract to 1 are 3 and 2. Make the larger one negative. So this is x minus 3, x plus 2. So when the leading coefficient is 1, we don't have to do all that extra stuff. We go right to the answer. So if A times B equals 0, either A is 0 or B is 0. So this gives me my first solution of 3, and my second solution is going to be negative 2. So our two solutions are negative 2, positive 3. And the highest power is 2, so that makes sense that we got 2 solutions. So hopefully you did that one right. That's about as easy as they get. They're not going to get any easier than that. So they go from going straight to the answer to using the AC method. And then this one you're going to see is going to be a GCF, our very first kind of factoring we learned. So first thing I do is I go, oh, this isn't set equal to 0, so I have to set it equal to 0. They're not like terms, so I can't combine them. So this turns into 3a squared minus 6a equals 0. And this is where a lot of students just lose it. This was our very first factoring pattern, and this is what you're supposed to do on every factoring problem. Look for something common. 3 and an a. So that should always be the first factoring pattern you check for is something common. And this one has it. Doesn't have anything else, but it has that. So if you forget about that one, you'll think this doesn't factor. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So this would be a minus 2. So the zero factor property says if a times b equals 0, then either a is 0 or the second factor is 0. So divide by 3, 0 divided by anything is 0. Add 2, a is 2. So my two solutions, and this is one that so many students give me one answer. They give me just 2. Well, you can't forget about that. Plus, that says 2 solutions. Don't give me one solution. If the highest power is 2, that means you need 2. So 0 and 2 it is. And someone asked via email, can you check these? Absolutely. Put 0 in. 3 times 0 is 0. 6 times 0 is 0. 0 equals 0. Then put 2 in. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 3 is 12. 6 times 2, 12. So when you put it in, you just get the same number on both sides. So any problem that says solve can be checked by plugging the answers in and seeing if it gives you a true statement. Okay, we only have about 30 seconds, but we'll go ahead and start on this one and start labeling it. So the length of a rectangle is 1 inch less than 3 times the width. So I teach my 09 students, whenever you see the word than, whatever follows it is your x. So width is my x, but a better letter would be W. The length is 1 less than twice that, or excuse me, than 3 times that.